Yeah. WOTA News. Variety. Information. Now. Keep your arms and legs on the inside at all times.
If you want to avoid getting ripped off and put more money in your pocket, then join me, Clark Howard, every weeknight at 6, right here on WOCA, The Source.
We are The Source, WOCA.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. One thing that TV has taught us that is actually useful, and I know there's many things. I'm not trying to be facetious, but just trying to have a clever way to introduce our next guest. But one of the things that I guess I've only learned from TV is our Miranda rights. Got to say it right, Miranda rights,
Yes.
right? You have the right to remain silent. Right? That's the
Yes.
one part you all remember, right?
Exactly.
Anything you say can and will be used against you.
In a court of law.
In a court of law. And will be. It will be. Even if you just say, God bless you, officer, you sneezed.
That's right.
One thing I've always often wondered about that is if you decide to talk, have you given up your right? Like, could you change your mind? Okay, I'm not saying anymore. I'm stopping. I'm going to stop. We have somebody on the phone who can answer that question. Peter Baskin is an attorney and an author. His book is called A Toast to Silence. Avoid becoming another victim of deceptive police tactics by knowing when and how to use the power of silence. This is an interesting topic. Peter Baskin is a constitutional rights attorney, by the way. Good morning, Peter. Thank you for agreeing to be on our show.
Good morning. A pleasure to be with you.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
From Fairfax, Virginia, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. It's the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area.
All right. Well, the closer you get to D.C., the more you better know your rights, huh?
Yes.
That's not really true, but I just thought I'd say that. All right. So when we hear the thing on TV, do they do it accurately? First of all, I guess we'll just start there.
Well, they do it accurately, and they also do it hurriedly, as though it was just an administrative chore to get beyond. And when you're having the handcuffs put on you, and he's placing you under arrest and advising you your Miranda warnings, a million things are going through your mind. The last of which is legal technicality. But what the book focuses on is by the time you hear the Miranda warning, it's too late, because the Miranda warning protects the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. That's what it protects. And the mistake that people make is they think that if they cooperate with the police before they get arrested, okay, they won't get arrested. And what they do
Really?
They do just the opposite in the critical interval between the time of the initial stop when a policeman pulls you over and the time of the Miranda warning. The time of the Miranda warning is the time you are arrested. And the reason you are arrested is because during the minutes before the arrest, you gave the officer evidence of your guilt, which you didn't have to give. People think their Miranda right begins when they're told.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not.
I
no,
thought
the
that.
right. No, the right to remain silent is with you 24/7. You never have to talk to the police except to identify yourself, and if he asks you in a nighttime stop to step out of the car, or even in a daytime stop, you have to step out of the car. But that is all you're obligated to do under the law.
Oh,
That's
really?
it.
So I don't know. I don't have an example to back this up, but I feel like there have been some stories of people who got off because the Miranda rights were never read. Is that true? Does that happen?
That's correct. But in a situation like that, it's he said, she said. The officer can say, "I advised you of your rights," and you can say, "No, you didn't," and then it becomes something that has to be disputed and decided by a judge.
Wow.
Okay, there's nothing to dispute or decide when you say nothing. Okay, so that's because the officer's function in law enforcement, there's two subcategories of what he does. He makes arrests, and he gathers evidence to support that arrest later on down the road in court. Okay, what I'm talking about is the evidence gathering process.
Okay.
You don't You don't have to give him spoken evidence, and you don't have to take any field sobriety tests.
Really?
So
you do not.
This is true in every place in this country, every little town, every state.
The right to remain silent is a matter of the U.S. Constitution, and as interpreted by the Supreme Court, it is the law everywhere that the United States has jurisdiction, which is all 50 states, all of its territories. It is the law everywhere. As a practical matter, it's the law everywhere for Americans.
I'm guessing communication in general is protected. I don't I can't even shake my. Not that I can't shake my head, but shaking my head is a form of talking, right? It is.
Okay. It is. But the Supreme Court has said in a recent case that you just can't engage in body conduct or stand mute. You have to affirmatively, with words, say that you're not going to use any further words. In other words, you have to speak and say you're invoking your right to remain silent. You say to the officer, "Sir, I have nothing to discuss with you. I'm remaining silent under my right under the Fifth Amendment." And that's all you say. And don't use the word self-incrimination. That is the worst word that has crept into our vocabulary to describe what I'm talking about.
Sometimes people will say that they were tricked by an
arresting
officer.
They absolutely are. They're tricked by clever, pleasant conversation that you're having with the officer. He'll stop you and he'll ask you if you've had anything to drink tonight, which you shouldn't answer about that. That is the speech you shouldn't give. And then he also might say, "Would you mind stepping out of the car and take some tests for me?" You can refuse to do that as far as taking the test. You can't refuse to step out of the car. But the next thing, and then they say to you, "Well, we just want to see if you're all right. If you pass these tests, we'll let you move on and go home and go on about your business." Those are the seductive, deceptive lies that they tell, because you're not going to pass these field sobriety tests. Nobody can, okay, because they're set up and designed for you to fail. So the best advice is don't take them, because that is the primary evidence used against you.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this, and this is what I've heard. I've never gone through this, and I hope I never do, but I've heard that if you refuse to take the test, then your license can be suspended.
Well, you got to be careful when you got to define your terms. When you say refuse to take the test, what test are you talking about? There's 3 different tests that are relevant here to our discussion. The first is the field sobriety test. It is the field Alka-Sensor test. That's the one where he asks you to blow into that little meter on the street. Okay. That is not required to be taken. Okay. That is optional. The field sobriety test, that's the second form of test we're talking about. Those are the ones that give most of the damaging evidence that plugs into the definition of being under the influence of alcohol in court.
Is that the one where you have to walk a straight line and
walk and turn, stand on one leg, fingertip touching, recite the alphabet? Wow. All of that is non-mandatory. It's voluntary.
Okay.
So now the third one that is arguably mandatory, and I say arguably for a reason. Most states have what is known as implied consent laws, okay? By you being a licensed driver and operating on the public roads, you have consented, given an implied consent to take that alcohol test at the station. That's the only one where implied consent applies. But here's the thing. If you're back out on the street and you give no evidence to the officer to support his arrest decision, and his arrest decision is only based on you annoying him or ticking him off because you didn't cooperate by giving him evidence, okay, then your arrest is illegal. And if your arrest is illegal, okay, any evidence gathered after an illegal arrest is suppressible. It cannot be used against you, and that includes the station house breath test if you decide to take it, or blood test. Okay.
On my Florida license, I pulled it out of my wallet so I can read it to you verbatim. It says, operation of a motor vehicle constitutes consent to any sobriety test required by law. Okay.
Well, that is where'd you get? That's on your license?
That's on my Florida driver's license. I'm looking at it.
I think that's an incorrect advisement of the law, or a misstatement of the law, because everywhere that I have looked concerning the two breath tests that we initially talked about, the handheld device that the officer puts in your face on the street, okay, that is optional in most places, almost everywhere, and the field sobriety tests are optional as well. And I've been on other radio shows where policemen have called in from California, from New Jersey, from Texas, and they all agree with me. The tests are optional. Sometimes they do it with reluctance, but they do it. They agree with me.
Okay, well, the part of this, I guess you could argue, it says any sobriety test required by law. What sounds like what you're saying is that none of them are required by law.
Except that one at the station, okay? By implied consent. But here's the thing. Like I said, if you can demonstrate that your arrest was illegal because the officer didn't have evidence, because you kept your mouth shut and didn't take any tests on the street, any competent criminal lawyer that does this work can demonstrate that that is an illegal arrest. And,
okay.
And then anything gathered after that is the fruit of the poisonous tree. It's not admissible evidence.
All right. I'm loving this conversation. We have to take a little break. Peter Baskin is giving us a lot of great information. His book is called A Toast to Silence. We'll find out more on the other side of the break. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Partly sunny today, a thunderstorm inland this afternoon. High of 90 to 92, and a thunderstorm into the evening hours, and it clears back out tonight. Low 72 to 75. Tomorrow and Saturday are going to be partly sunny with inland thunderstorms in the afternoon hours. The high will range from 90 to 93 both days. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Maggie Johnson.
Cookies, 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 cookies. We go cookie eating cookies.
When you want something special and fun for any occasion, get cookies. King Cookie in the Paddock Mall in Ocala will make a delicious, fun-filled delight just for you. So next time you're in the mall, stop by King Cookie or call 352-237-2557. KingCookieOcala.com. Customized cookies, cakes, and more. King Cookie.
Eating cookies. We're so happy eating cookies. Cookies!
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
When we start dating somebody, we subconsciously begin to take on each other's personality traits. It's a subconscious way of becoming more compatible. Our decision to pay with cash or credit can influence everything from the way food tastes to how much we enjoy a movie, for example. Overweight people who slowed down when eating, took in far fewer calories, felt full sooner, and lost a lot of weight.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service today and avoid all those headaches before they happen. Pride Tree Service, 572-2510. That's 572-2510.
All right, just about 12 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's return now to our conversation with Peter Baskin. He is a constitutional rights attorney. He's the author of a new book called A Toast to Silence. And if you have been listening, then you already know the gist of the conversation. But the book probably will answer all of your questions. We'll try to get as much in here as we can. If you have any questions, by the way, that Robin and I are not asking, you are welcome to call. The number is 622-9622. Peter, there are some videos going around on YouTube, for example, that advise that when we get stopped by a police officer, all we have to do is hold up. We don't even have to roll down the window. Just hold up our driver's license and insurance card and what's called vehicle registration. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people think that they will prevent the officer from detecting an odor of alcohol if you've been drinking. And that's a misnomer as well. It's not an odor of alcohol. Alcohol has no odor. It's the metabolized other ingredients in beer, wine, or distilled liquor that gives off an odor, and most police officers can't tell the difference. But when you do that, in the current climate, of all the, people shooting police and policemen shooting people, to me, is a dangerous thing to do because, the officer can't see inside your car very well when you have the window rolled up, and they're onto it now. They understand that if you're not rolling up the window, you must have been drinking, and for safety reasons, and because of a decision of the U.S. Supreme Court, they can ask you to step out of the car, and that you're obliged to do for safety reasons. So the rolling up of the window is not going to do anything.
I see.
And
Okay.
keeping it rolled up, roll it down for your own safety, so that he can see that you're not armed. Because in most places, the mere odor of alcohol is not sufficient in and of itself to justify an arrest for driving under the influence. There has to be more evidence, and the object of my book or the focus of my book is the other evidence that he is going to try to acquire, which you have a right not to give under the Fifth Amendment.
What if it's more than just a one vehicle accident? To cause it. Perhaps there's another vehicle involved. That other driver gets hurt. There's a pedestrian involved. That pedestrian gets hurt. Wouldn't it be in the best interest of the driver to do those things, of the car that did the accident?
I'm not sure for which driver to do what. I didn't understand your question.
The person that's impaired and he causes the accident. He hits a pedestrian or he hits another car, and that person in that car is injured. Shouldn't the person who caused the accident just go ahead and adhere to whatever the police officer is asking him to do?
Well, yeah, but there are limits to what he's required to answer in response to what the policeman asks him to do. When you have an accident, you're obligated to call the police, stay on the scene, and identify yourself. But when the officer launches into his investigation as to the cause of the accident, and he focuses it on you because he thinks you've been under the influence of alcohol, then everything in the book is triggered, and that is your right to remain silent and not answer any question except about your identity. That's all you're required to do, and keep your hands relatively still and always visible to the police, because they're as afraid of you as you are of them when it comes to getting assaulted. So you want to make sure that you don't make any sudden move with your hands, and he can see that you don't have any weapon to assault him. But after that, you don't have to do any. You don't have to take any field sobriety tests. You don't have to answer any questions about what you had to drink. And that's what keeps you from getting convicted. See, people focus too much on the fear of getting arrested, okay? The real fear they should have is getting convicted, and they get convicted on evidence they supplied. So the evidence they supply, which they don't have to supply, not only causes their arrest, it causes their conviction. So, if you don't give the evidence, the only officer's basis to arrest you is his annoyance at you not cooperating with him.
Okay, that's funny.
But that and it may cost you a night in jail or a half a night in jail, but, the consequences of getting convicted because you gave him evidence and cooperated are far worse. You're in the court system for a year with all manner of strings and conditions hanging over you. So the conviction is what you want to avoid. We've got to focus on conviction and avoiding conviction, and focus on the Fifth Amendment, the right to remain silent. Free speech under the First Amendment is not the thing to engage in with an officer on the street.
Okay. Peter Baskin is our guest. The book is A Toast to Silence. Avoid becoming another victim of deceptive police tactics by knowing when and how to use the power of silence. I invited listeners, Peter, and we do have some calling in. Let me take some of those calls.
I'll stay with you as long as you want.
Okay. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. One of the other important things is if the ticket that is written to you is for reckless driving, never plead guilty to reckless driving. Run, do not walk to a lawyer and try to get the charge reduced to careless driving.
Okay. Peter,
I agree with that.
You agree with that?
I agree with that. People think that if, in a lot of circumstances, if they plead guilty, the judge will appreciate it and the judge will treat them better than if you pled not guilty. That's not correct. Everybody has a right to plead not guilty and make the state prove their guilt. That's what the Constitution says.
So far, we've been focusing completely on if you're in a car. I don't know if this is true in all municipalities, but in Los Angeles, you have to have an ID on you, even if you're just walking the street. Is that? I mean, what do you do then if a policeman says, "Come here, I need to talk to you"? I mean, what do you? I mean,
show it to him. Well, it depends on the approach. If he says, "I need to talk to you," say, "Officer, here's my identification. What do you want to talk about?" And then if he says what he wants to talk about, I say, "I choose not to talk to you." And the next thing you should say is, "Am I free to leave?" Okay, and most officers that know what they're doing will say yes, because in those circumstances they've got no basis to even arrest you or talk to you or question you. So if he says you're free to leave, you walk away. If he says you're not free to leave, whether or not he uses the word arrest, you are under arrest, and all you have to do then is say, put your hands behind you and say, "Officer, put the cuffs on me and take me to the magistrate right now if I'm under arrest." And 99 times out of 100, the policeman will not do that because he's got no basis to do it.
All right. Now, I'm going to give you two examples, if you don't mind, and then I'll ask you the question. So 2 examples are, one, this actually happened to me. I was in New York. I was a teenager. I was walking the street all by myself. I actually had a job at a church, of all places, and I was walking to my job, and a policeman stopped, and he said, "Where are you coming from?" And I said, "Home." Where are your friends? I said, "They're probably at home." And he was looking for, I guess some kids had done something, and he thought I was one of them. Had he, arrested me, I would have been, like, first of all, scared, but I didn't do anything at all.
Right.
So there's that circumstance. The other circumstance is simple. Let's say I was one of the kids who did something wrong. I mean, can he arrest me in either case if I just say I'm not going to say a word?
He can, but it's an unlawful arrest, and the first thing he has to do, people worry and think about because they've been misinformed by popular entertainment that when an officer arrests you, he takes you to jail. He does not. He takes you to a judicial officer before whom the officer has to state under oath why you got arrested. Okay, and so knowing that, most officers will not do that. They won't arrest you, and they'll respect your right if you show them you know your rights, not by saying and getting into his face and challenging him or baiting him by saying, "Look, officer, I know my rights." Don't tell him you know your rights. Just show him you do. Say, "Officer, I choose not to talk to you. Okay? Here's my identification. I have nothing else to say. Am I free to leave?" If he says yes, give me back my identification. I'm leaving. If he arrests you, he's a very foolish officer, very poorly trained, and doesn't know what he's doing.
This maybe doesn't apply, but real quick, I want to ask you this. Since some states have now legalized marijuana, and since the federal government has not, could a federal officer arrest you for having marijuana in a state where it's legal?
Technically, he could, but I think there is a directive from the Attorney General, not the current one, but the previous one, under the Obama administration, that I forget his name. His face is right in front of me, and he was a big legal official in Washington D.C. I should know his name, but I don't. But anyway, he sent out a directive to all United States attorneys not to prosecute simple, small-time possession of marijuana cases. So it's not happening. Yeah, yes, that's the
Eric
one.
Holder.
Thank you, Robert.
Eric Holder, yeah. He sent out a directive, and there are virtually no more federal prosecutions for simple, small amount, personal use possession of marijuana. It just doesn't happen anymore.
The book is called A Toast to Silence, and Peter Baskin, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us about your book. Do you have a website so we can buy the book?
Yes, it's the name of the book. It's atoasttosilence.com.
Okay, easy enough. A Toast to Silence.com.
And I also have a Facebook page if you want to see little snippets from the book, as they relate to contemporary news items.
Okay, gosh, you're going to have people talking because this is going to kind of come up, and the argument is only going to be reinforced by whatever you've written in the book.
Well, the main point to remember is you don't have to give evidence to the police. The Fifth Amendment says so. Stop being afraid of arrest, and just remember the right to silence is more potent than the right of free speech when you're with a cop.
Oh, nice. I'm going to remember that.
All right.
Forget the First Amendment and concentrate on the Fifth Amendment. That's the one that saves you.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. But if they think you're in possession of a weapon, you got to say, "I have no weapon," right? You got to tell them that, right?
You're well advised in today's climate to tell them you don't have a weapon, but they've gone way overboard with this case that was decided 50 years ago, Terry versus Ohio, and New York is one of the worst places where they've abused it. But everybody thinks it's a Terry search. It's not. It's a pat down of the outer clothing for weapons if the officer has an objective basis to think you are armed. A bulge in the pocket. The classic case was Terry, where the guy was casing. A detective watched the guy case a jewelry store for more than an hour. Okay, and then quickly ran up to him and patted him down and found that he had a weapon. But and that's the limitation of it. But the police have gone overboard with it, and every time they announce a war on crime in the big cities, they just abuse the Constitution. Something terrible.
Wow.
Peter Baskin, thank you for being on there with us. I love this conversation, and I'm sure the book has way more than we were able to cover. Again, the book is called A Toast to Silence. Go to the website, atoasttosilence.com. Go to the Facebook page and become a friend, or however you do that. Peter, thank you. That was fun.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Anna Wells. 3 U.S. swimmers can't leave Brazil as cops investigate teammate Ryan Lochte's gunpoint robbery.